We begin today the Gemara on Daf Tesam with Beis at the Mishnah towards the bottom of the Yamud. Okay, so this Mishnah continues the halachis b'negeya to the a person that found a Metzia and so on. Zok Teilige Mishnah. Haya roiche v'agabi be'ema. A person was riding on an animal, and v'ra some Metzia, and he sees on the ground a Metzia, finds something. So he's riding on an animal and he can't reach it. So he tells his friend Tnoli, give me this Metzia. Notla, the friend takes it, va'amar, and then the friend says, Ani zechisi ba. I was zeichen, I took it for myself. Zacha ba. So he's going to be zeichen in it for himself. This is one of the main things that the Gemara is going to discuss in the Gemara. When this person picked it up, what was he thinking? Was he thinking l'chatchila that he's picking it up for himself? Or was he thinking he's picking it up for his friend, like his friend asked him, but nevertheless, afterwards he says, no, I'm keeping it for myself. Okay, that the Gemara will discuss. If after he gave this to his friend, now he comes and says, oh no, I was zeichen it first, tchila, before I gave it to you. Then he said nothing. Then it doesn't help anymore. After you gave it to your friend, so even if you were zeichen it, but you gave it to him now as a gift, so once you gave it to him, it's too late. And if you were not zeichen it, so then when you gave it to your friend, it wasn't yours really to give to him because you weren't zeichen it. It was in your hands. It was still sort of hefker, and you just gave it to him. So once you gave it to him, it's too late to say that it's yours, that you're zeichen it. So the Gemara, in order to explain our Mishnah, we'll bring first a Mishnah in Masechta Peya that will discuss a similar kind of situation where one person wants to be zeichen something for someone else, and then from that we'll come back to see what the pshat in our Mishnah is. Tanan Asam, we learned in the Mishnah Masechta Peya. Mi shaliket esapeya. A random individual comes along and he's collecting from Peya. A Peya, of course, is made for poor people. That's it. A person that has 200 zuz, a person that's rich, he doesn't have the right to go and collect Peya. So here we have a random individual that's collecting Peya, and he's not collecting the Peya for himself. Va'amar, he says, Harei zu l'ploiniyani. I'm collecting this Peya for another poor individual. Rabbi Eliezer says, Zachalai. The pay that you collect, you zeicha for that person. It works. You're picking up the pay and not for yourself, for the other person. You have the right, you have the ability to do that for him and that person's zeicha. Chachamim say, no. If you're picking it up for yourself is one thing, but if you're picking it up for someone else, it doesn't work. This pay you picked up is not yours. Give it to the poor person that you find first. You would try to be zeicha for someone else, it doesn't work. So you have to just give it away to the first ani. So as I mentioned, this Mishnah is talking here about Stam, a random individual that comes and is picking up this pay for someone else. Now, I should clarify, we're not talking about the owner of the property that's doing this for someone else, because the owner of the property is not allowed to be zeich in any of the pay, not for himself and not for someone else. He has to just leave it for them to take. Rashi brings the blush on the pasuk lo salakit, that there's a lav, you're not allowed to collect that pay, you have to leave it for the poor person. We're talking about Stam, a random person that's picking up pay, doing a favor for someone else, picking it up for another ani. So here the Gemara explains what exactly is the case of this machlokes. Who is this random individual that's picking up the payah? Amar Olam Rabbi Shua ben Levi machlokes me osher la'ani. The argument over here, whether this person has the ability to pick up the payah for someone else, is if that random person that came to pick up this payah is a osher. He himself is a osher, meaning he's rich. What does that mean if he's rich? If he's rich, that means he doesn't have the right to pay it. It's not his bachlal to pick up. So in such a case, here is where there's a machlokes, whether this person picking up the payah has the ability to pick it up for his friend. Okay, now what's the basis of the Gemara that we're about to learn now? This Gemara here later is going to explain. We learned it already before in Daf Ches, that when you pick something up, so even though you want to do a favor and pick it up for your friend, but at the same time, you're taking it away from everyone else. Who says that you have the right? The Torah gives a koyach of that you could do something, you could be zeiche in something for someone else. That's the koyach of zchiyah. Even if that other person never appointed you to be a shliach, but you could go and do something which is beneficial for someone else, and you'll be zeiche for him without him asking you. However, if it's chav la'cherim, if at the same time it causes a loss to others, then you don't have the koyach. The Torah didn't give you the right and the koyach to do that, to be zeiche in it for someone when at the expense, at the loss of someone else. However, if there's a certain koyach that you yourself have to be zeichen in this, if you yourself have an ability, a right to be zeichen in this for yourself, so then the fact that what you're doing is a loss for others doesn't matter. Because for myself, for sure I have a koich to be zeicha for myself, even though it's at a loss for others. When you're being zeicha in this as a favor for someone else, while it's at an expense, at a loss for someone else, then there's an issue. Then there's a problem. You can't be zeicha for someone else. But if you have the ability to be zeicha for yourself, then you have the ability to do the favor and be zeicha in it for someone else. So if the Gemara explains over here like this, what we're talking about over here is the person that's picking up this payah is rich. So really this rich person has no rights to this payah at all. So how could it be zeicha for someone else? But the point is, Rabbi Eliezer holds, even this rich individual that has no rights to the payah, but he does have a potential right to it, because if he would give up his money, and he wouldn't be rich anymore, he would be poor, then this payah would be possible for him to be zeicha for himself. So therefore now, even though he's still rich, but now we say that the fact that he has that option, he has that possibility, so he's in a position that we say, if I want it, I could be zeiching this for myself. And also besides that, another point, since he has the option, the possibility to be zeicha for himself, he can be zeicha in this for his friend. And it's not a problem that he's taking it away from others. That's Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbanan Savri, however, the Rabbanan say, Chad migu amrina. If it would just be one point of migud, since he could have, that we would say. Meaning, let's say this person would be poor. So in such a case, if he's poor and he's not trying to be zeiche in this pay for himself, but he could have tried to be zeiche in it for himself. So then, yeah, it would work if he wants to be zeiche in it for his friend. However, this person that's rich over here, there's two migus that you're not going to say. Over here, when this person is rich, you're going to have to say 2 points. Number one, he could get rid of his money and be poor. And number two, and when he's poor, he could have been zeiche in it for himself. So therefore now, even though he's rich, and he's not thinking to be zeiche in it for himself, 2 different points here. Still, since potentially it could have been, so therefore he has a koich to be zeiche for his friend. Rabbanan says that's taking it too far. You really, at this point, have no shaykhis to this. You have no ability to be zeiche in it for yourself. You're not thinking you want to be zeiche in it for yourself. And therefore, you can't be zeiche in this for your friend while you're taking it away from others. Aval me'ani la'ani. So what according to this, though, if it would be one poor individual that wants to do a favor and be zeiche in it for another, everybody would agree you could be zeiche for him. Since you have the ability to be zeiche in it for yourself, even if you're not thinking that you want to be zeiche in it for yourself, you can be zeiche in it for your friend as well. That was the interpretation of Ula in the name of Rabbi Shua ben Levi. So now, based on this, the Gemara comes back into our Mishnah. Rav Nachman asks Ula on this. Why wouldn't you want to say that the pshat of that Mishnah in Peya is me'ani la'ani machlokes? Even in a case where the person that's picking up the Peya is a poor person. And over there's a machlokes whether this poor person that wants to do a favor for his friend, could he be zeiche for him? Why don't we want to say that over there is the machlokes? Why? What would be the benefit of saying that pshat over there in that Mishnah? Because the Metzia, when it comes to a case of a Metzia, going back to our Mishnah, when there's a found item, Hakel ani metzla, this Metzia, using the analogy of Peya, everybody is poor by it, meaning it's something that anybody has the ability or the right to be zeiche in this Metzia. And what does it say in our Mishnah? Could one person do a favor and pick up the Metzia for his friend when he's not intending to pick it up for himself? So now you see again what it said in our Mishnah. A person's riding on an animal, and he sees a Metzia on the ground, and tells his friend, Tanali, give it to me, be zeiche in it for me. Notla, and your friend went and took it, and then he goes ahead and says, I was zeiche in it for myself. Zachalba, he can keep it for himself. How does the Gemara understand the pshat in this Mishnah at this point? The way the Gemara understands it is, the person that picked it up did not pick it up for himself. When he picked it up, he had his friend in mind. He did pick it up for his friend. And nevertheless, if afterwards he comes and says, I want to keep it for myself. Even though I picked it up for you, but I want to keep it for myself. He's able to keep it for himself. Why? Because when he had in mind to pick it up for his friend is not going to be zeiche. You don't have the power to pick something up for your friend. So that's what our Mishnah is saying. So now the Gemara says, who is the Tana of our Mishnah? If you're going to say over there, in that case, in the Mishnah of Peya, when there's one poor individual picking it up for another poor individual, and that's a situation where you could be zeiche in it for yourself. and you're deciding you want to be Zayich in it for your friend. And in such a case, there's a machlokes whether you have that ability to be Zayich in it for your friend. So then I can tell you, Masnisim Mani, our mission over here, which is talking about the Metzia, where there's one person that's asked to do a favor to pick it up for another. Who is our Mishnah going according to when the Mishnah says that when you picked it up for your friend is not Zayich in it. You could say, I'm taking it for myself. Rabbanani. It's following the opinion of the Rabbana that say regarding Peyeh that you picked it up for your friend. You're a ani, he's a ani. You picked it up for your friend, and still you can't. Your friend is not Zayich in it. Same thing over in our Mishnah. There's a Metzia. You picked it up for your friend is not Zayich in it. So that would make sense. And Rashi here clarifies, according to the Rabbanon, the only time you could be Zayich in something for your friend, when that's at a loss for others, you're taking it away from others, is like the Svara that we had before on Daf Ches that Rava said, if you're also being Zayich in it for your friend, like by the case of the talis. When you pick up a talis from the ground together with your friend, and you are being Zayich in it for yourself, not only you could have been Zayich for yourself, you actually are being Zayich in it for yourself, then I say that you have the right and the ability to also pick it up for your friend. But in a case where you're picking up something, a Metzia, just for your friend, and by doing that, you're taking it away from others, in such a case, you're not going to be able to be Zayich in it for anybody else. You're not going to be able to be Zayich in it for your friend, that is, because you're taking it away from other people. And that's what our Mishnah is teaching here. But, why? Because the friend was not Zayche, right? What's the Mishnah saying? The Mishnah is saying when you picked it up for your friend is not Zayche, and therefore if you say you want to keep it for yourself, you can keep it for yourself, right? Correct, not your friend. Yeah. But if you're going to say, what was the machlokes of Rabbi Eliezer and the Rabbanon in a situation where you're rich, by the payer, you're rich, not only you're not being Zayche in it for your friend now, you don't even have the potential to be Zayche. Right now you're rich. So in your matzah right now, you can't be Zayich in it at all. And it's only then where there was an argument whether you can pick up this payah for your friend. But if you were poor and your friend is poor, everybody would agree that you could pick it up for your friend. So then homani. Our Mishnah that says that when you pick up a Metzia for your friend, you can keep it for yourself, and your friend is not Zayich in it, who's our Mishnah going according to? Lei Rabban of Lei Rabbi Eliezer. Not any of those opinions mentioned there in the Masechta Peyah. That was the question of Nachman asked. So the Gemara answers, Omalei. So he said to him, there's no question from our Mishnah. Masnisin, in our Mishnah, where it says that your friend asked you to pick up a Metzia for him, and then you say you want to keep it for yourself, what's the case of our Mishnah? The Omar Tchila. This person, when he says, I want to keep it for myself, he's not saying, I picked it up for you, but now I decided I want to keep it for myself. No. The pshat in the Mishnah is the person comes and says, even though you asked me for this favor to pick it up for you, I never had you in mind. I lechatchila picked it up for myself. That's why he can say he's keeping it for himself. If he picked it up for his friend, so then everybody would agree that his friend would be Zayich in it. You wouldn't be able to keep it for yourself. So in our Mishnah is different. He said, he says, lechatchila I picked it up for myself. Says the Gemara, it's logical to say that this is what our Mishnah means. Because the Ktani Seife, in the next case of the Mishnah, it says, if after you gave this Metzia to your friend, you tell him, I was Zayich in it before I gave it to you. He didn't say anything. He says, it's too late. You already gave it to your friend. So the Gemara now points out, this word tchila that it says here is extra. Tchila b'seife lamali. Why does it have to say this word tchila? That I was Zayich in it before, which would simply sound like it's saying, before I gave it to you. Pshita, it's obvious. Even if the Mishnah would not say the word tchila kama, he obviously means to say that I was Zayich in it before I gave it to you as a gift. The person is not telling his friend, I was Zayich in it after I gave it to you. After you gave it to him, it's too late, obviously. So when he's saying, I was Zayich in it, what does he mean? He obviously means to say, I was Zayich in it before I gave it to you. So why is the Mishnah using the word tchila? When the Mishnah uses that term tchila, what it's coming to say is, it's really coming to clarify the pshat and the reisha. That reisha, the omar tchila. That in the first case of the Mishnah, when the person says that I was Zayich in it, what did he mean to say? I was Zayich in it from the beginning when I picked it up. My intention when I picked it up was to pick it up for myself. And what the Mishnah is saying is that nevertheless, in the Sefer, once you gave it to your friend, even if you did lechatchila have in mind to pick it up for yourself, so now after you gave it to your friend, you gave it to him as a gift. So therefore your friend is going to be Zayich in it. That's what we see. That's the pshat in our Mishnah. However, the other opinion here is what we brought before. Ula, Rabbi Shua ben Levi. How did they learn Pshat in the Mishnah? They understood the Pshat in the Mishnah is that when the person picked it up, he picked it up for his friend. It wasn't Chil. He didn't pick it up in the beginning for himself. He did pick it up for his friend. The Mishnah uses this expression of tchila that seems to indicate that right all the way from the beginning he picked it up for himself. The Gemara says no, not necessarily. Tana seife legluya reisha. The expression of tchila that the Mishnah uses only in the seif of the Mishnah. It doesn't use that term in the beginning of the Mishnah. In the first case of the Mishnah, it only uses in the seife. It's using it in the seife to clarify pshat in the reisha. Seife d'alma tchila. In the seife where the person is saying, I was zeiche in it first, he meant to say, I was zeiche in this before I gave it to you. But not when I picked it up, before I gave it to you. Reisha de lo yom tchila. But in the reisha of the Mishnah, what's the case? The person picked it up for his friend, not for himself. And still the Mishnah is saying that you're not going to be that your friend is not going to be zeich in it. You're going to be zeich in it. And the reason is because on Metzia Metzia you pick up a Metzia for your friend, he's not zeich in it. You're going to be zeich in it. That's according to this opinion that both the Rabbanon and Rabbi Eliezer, everybody agrees you don't have the power to pick it up for your friend. Okay. That's two pshatim in our Mishnah. Now the Gemara brings it. This is there's a machlokes about this. Rav Nachman v'Rav Chisda. Till we brought Rav Nachman, but it wasn't only Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman and Rav Chisda. Damri Tarvayu. They both said Hamagbia Metzia lachaveiroi loy kana chaveiroi. When you pick up a Metzia and you're having your friend in mind and you're not being kind of it for yourself at all, your friend is not going to be zeich in this. My time. Here the Gemara brings the source of this concept. What's the reason for this? Because this could be compared to a person that owes money to two people. And someone comes and grabs money from this person without anybody appointing him. According to Rashi, the case of here is somebody else just came along, a random person came along, nobody appointed him, nobody asked him to collect this money. A person just comes along to collect the loan of one of them, and that's at the expense of the other person that the money is also owed to. This person owes money to two people. And someone comes along and wants to collect money for one of them. So over here, even though we have the cloud, the Torah gives a koyach of zechiyah, even if you weren't appointed to do this, you have the ability to go and do a favor for someone else and be zeicha and collect the money of this loan for one person. But the thing is, that koyach of zechiyah that the Torah gave is not if it's at the expense of someone else. If it's chav la'acherim, if someone else is also owed money and you're taking it away from him. If you're collecting money for someone that money is owed to, but there's someone else is losing out of this because he also owes money to someone else. You don't have the power to do that. According to the way Rashi says it over here is that this is only in a case where you just go without being asked, without being appointed as a shliach to do this. In a case where you were appointed as a shliach, and the fact that it's at a loss for someone else wouldn't matter. That's what Rashi says. But Taisus, however, argues, Taisus says that no, even if it's at a loss for someone else, and a case where you were appointed as a shliach, still the din of shlichus does not apply when you do something for someone else if it's at a loss for someone else. So over here, according to Rav Nachman and Rav Chisda, just like you understand by a loan that you don't have the right to collect this loan when it's at a loss for someone else, it's the same thing also by a Metzia. A Metzia is not exactly like a loan, but a Metzia is also a item which is hefker, that anybody could be zeiche in it, and you want to go and grab it and be zeiche it for one person. It's a schus for one person, but it's a loss for others, so you don't have the ability to do this. Rav Nachman, Rav asks Rav Nachman about this, Metzias Poil. It says in a braisa regarding a poil, a worker, if he finds something at that time when he's hired as a worker, latzma, he can keep what he finds for himself. However, when is that true? If he's being hired for a specific job, the person that hired him says, you should weed for me today, you should hoe for me today. So because he's hired for a specific job, the mitzvah that he finds, he can keep. But if you hire a worker and you tell the worker, I'm hiring you today to help me out with everything. You're working not limited to one thing. Then so then what you find is also sort of part of your work, what you're doing, your income, your work that you find this mitzvah, it all goes to the balabas. So the question that Rav is asking Rav Nachman is, you see right over here, a poil, this worker, he picks up the mitzvah, he's not picking it up for himself, he's picking it up for the person that he's working for, and he has the power to do that, to pick it up for the person that he's working for, even though it's to the expense, a loss for others that are losing out from this. So similar, any time that you want to go and pick something up for a friend of yours that he should be zeich in it right away, you should have the ability to do this. Amalei, so Rav Nachman answered, no, you can't ask me any question from a worker. Shani Payol, by a worker it's different. A worker is not just someone that's going and trying to do you a favor. The Yode Kiyad Balabayisu, when he's hired by you, so his hand is like an extension of the Balabas's hand. Therefore he has the power to go and pick it up for you. Stam, but a random individual that comes and wants to pick up something for you at the expense of others, there the Torah didn't give him that koyach to make a kinyan for you. But how could you say that a worker is like an extension of the hand of the balabas? Rav taught about a worker that's hired. You hire a yid to work for you, and he has a certain job, a kabbalah, he's doing a certain job. Even in the middle of the day, he can just decide to back out from the whole job. What do you see from this? That he's still independent. The fact that he can back out whenever he wants, that shows you that you can't say that his hand is like your hand. He's like a slave that belongs to you, and whatever he does automatically is yours. He can back out at any time. Amalei, so Rav Nachman answered, no, there's no question from that. As long as he doesn't back out, kiyad balabayisu. He is like an extension, like the hand of the balabas. Kihadabe. Then the fact that the Torah gives him the right and the ability to retract and back out in the middle of the day, what's the reason? Not because he's not like Yad Balaba, he is, but nevertheless, time achrinehu. There's another reason that we learn that tells us that he can back out. Because the pasuk says regarding Yidden, Kili b'nei Yisrael avodim. Yidden are my servants. Avodayhem v'lo avodim la'avodim. Yidden are the servants of the Eibishter, and not a servant that serves another Yid. There's another servant that you become totally subjugated to him, that he hires you for the day, or he hires you to do a job and you can't back out. I think it's only been a get takabla, if I remember correctly. I'm not 100% sure. You see in Taisus over here talks about this. So over here, there's another reason that a Yid belongs in essence to the Eibishter. So therefore, at any time when you're hired, you could always back out. But before you back out, as long as you're still a pile, it's kiyad balabayis. So therefore, whatever you zeiche, you have the ability to be zeiche for your master.
Can't say it's mega the migor.
No. He's mamish like his hand is an extension of the balabayis mamish.
And also, just in case if he's back out, it's like
No. That's when he backs out. That's a new thing that's nischadish. It's a new koyach that's nischadish. Then it's not an indication on before that he's not a yad of the balabayis. Amar Rab Chia bar Abba, Amar Rab Yechanan. Rab Chia bar Abba says in the name of Rab Yechanan, he argues with Rav Nachman, Hamagbiya, Metzia lachaveiroi. You pick up a Metzia, and you're doing a favor for your friend. You're not being zeicha in it for yourself at all, just for your friend. Kana chaveira. You have the power to do that. Your friend will be kind of this. If you'll ask the question that we discussed before already regarding our Mishnah, seems to say in our Mishnah that a person asked you, he was riding on the animal and he asked you, pick up this item for me. And we understand that Mishnah. Now the Gemara is asking the question the way we understood the Mishnah before, and you actually picked it up. You had a mind that you're picking it up for your friend. But nevertheless, if you say you want to keep it for yourself, you can keep it for yourself. Why? Because the kinyan for your friend does not take effect. So how could Rabbi Yechanan say that it does? So he answers here, he gives a different answer than the Gemara said before. He says over here, if you medayik in the words of the Mishnah, Da'ama Tnoli. In the Mishnah, the person that's riding on the animal didn't say to you, be zeiche in it for me. He didn't say, as soon as you pick it up, have me in mind that you're not being zeiche in it for yourself, you're being zeiche in it for me. What he said is, give it to me. What does give it to me mean? You pick it up, you'll be zeiche in it, and then give it to me as a gift. But not that you're going to be zeiche in it right in the beginning for me. So therefore, in such a case, if the person picks it up for himself, and then he says, I don't want to give it to you as a gift, therefore, he could keep it for himself. But if it would have been a case where your friend asked you, be zeiche in it for me, right away for me, in such a case, your friend would be kind of this. A person sees a mitzvah on the ground, and he throws himself onto this mitzvah. And then someone else comes along, and grabs it, and makes a chazakah, picks it up properly, which is a proper kinyan. The one that made the chazakah is going to be zeiche because he made a proper kinyan. Chazakah. The other person just threw himself on it. Throwing yourself on something, or even before that, whether you saw it, we learned right at the beginning of the Masechta, when you see something that's not a kinyan, you throw yourself on it, it's not a kinyan. So the other person that was machzik in it, he's going to be zeiche. Okay, so the Gemara here first brings a halacha, and then the Gemara will ask from a Mishnah. Reish Lakish said, Mishum Abba Kohen Bardala, the name of Abba Kohen Bardala. The halacha is as follows: Arba Ames Shalodam, the 4 ames that are around a person. Koina Isloi B'chol Mokim. If there's a chayfet, if there's an object inside that dal damis, so you're kaina it automatically by the fact that it's in your dal damis. What that basically means is the person's in the center. To each direction of him, there's 4 amas. So it really means 8 amas. And to each direction, a chayfetz which is in the 4 amas of this person, he's kind of this. My time, what's the reason for this? Why are you kind of something which is in your dalet amas? Tekinu Rabbanon, Chachamim instituted this, so people shouldn't come to fight. If you're not gonna say that a person's kind of within his dalet amas, a person something is in his dalet amas and he wants to go and be zeich, and someone else comes and grabs. Like this, you know that as soon as someone stands within a Metzia, which is in his dalet amas, so you're gonna be kind of right away. There's no reason for anybody to grab. Even if he grabs, you're already kind of. So people won't come to fight.
Just by being one.
Correct. So according to Rashi, Taisus brings there, according to many Rishonim, this whole takana of the Rabbanon was only regarding a Metzia, in order that people shouldn't come to fight. Or also Taisus brings a similar thing, Chachamim were misakim regarding a get, to make it easier for a woman to receive her get, so she shouldn't be an aguna. But regarding any other case, a person's trying to sell you something and he throws it into your dalet amas, you're not going to be kind of. By a proper sale over there, you have to make a proper kinyan. But there are other Rishonim though that disagree. There are Rishonim that say that you kaina with the dalet amas benegay to anything, not only benegay to Metzia, benegay to Mekach HaMemker as well. Now, what's the basis of this inyan of dalet amas is the Rebbe speaks about this inyan in a few places. In one of the places, is in a Siche and Kuntris and Yono Shalteres Achsidis, and then the Rebbe speaks about this inyan. And there the Rebbe brings from the Rishonim that the way dalet amas works is Chachamim were misaken that your dalet amas becomes like your private chotzer. Becomes like your domain, and therefore, just like there's a kinyan of chotzer min atayra that you're kinda, we learned already before, we learn out from Yodai, Gagai, so too over here, you're going to be kinda, becomes like your chotzer. Amar Abaye, so Abaye said about this this halacha. Moisev Rav Chia bar Yosef Peya. Rav Chia bar Yosef asked a question on this halacha from a Mishnah in Peya. Amar Rave said, Moisev Rav Yaakov Baridi Nezikin. And that Rav Yaakov Baridi asked a question on this halacha from a Mishnah in Nezikin, which is here from Bava Metzia, right at the Mishnah that we just learned. And the Gemara first brings the Mishnah of Peya. Amar Abaye, Moisev Rav Chia bar Yosef Peya. What's the question he asked from the Mishnah in Peya? Not al miktzas Peya. What happens if a person takes some peya and v'zarak al ashar? He wants to acquire the rest of the peya, so he picks up some of the peya and he throws it on the other wheat that's there, and he wants to be zeich in it that way. Ein loy ba klum. Just by throwing some of the peya onto others, that's not a proper kinyan. You're not going to be zeich in it. Nafaloyala. You have peya and you throw yourself on this peya, or paras talisela. You want to save this peya for yourself, so you spread out a garment over this peya to keep it for yourself. That's not. None of this is a proper kinyan. You didn't pick it up for yourself. Ma'avir noiseh manner. We remove this person here from this pay. It wasn't zeich in it. V'chein ba'omer shikha. The same thing is also with the sheaves of shikha that's forgotten. That has to be for the poor people. And you do any of these things to try to keep it for yourself. It doesn't work. The question now is, if you're going to say there's a din that if it's in your dalet amas, so then by that you acquire it, why didn't you acquire it by the fact that you were standing there and it's within your dalet amas? You don't have to throw anything, you don't have to do anything, you should be kind of right away. Answers the Gemara, he did not clearly say, I want to be kind of this. In order for the dalet amas to work, you have to say, I want akni, that it should be, that the king should work. And he didn't say that, so therefore it won't work. But the Gemara doesn't accept this. The Gemara says, if Chachamim instituted that you should be kind with dalet amas so people shouldn't come to fight, even without saying, I want to be kind, it shouldn't matter. Chachamim made a takana that automatically, it's in your dalet amas, you're kind automatically. So the Gemara answers a different answer. True, dalet amas should work. But over here, Kivin the Nofal, this individual, when he throws himself or does something else to want to be kinda, this peya, Gali Daitei the Benefila Nichele. By doing that action, he's showing that he's interested in being kinda in his own way, through Nefila. And that's not a proper kinyan. He's not interested in using the Takanas Chachamim to be Zeiche through dalet amas. So therefore he's not going to be Zeiche in this. So here there's a chiddush that comes out from this Gemara that by dalet amas the kinyan works mamish automatically. When there's a chayfetz over there in this your dalet amas, you're zeicha even without saying you want to be zeicha in it. By a chotzer it doesn't work that way. By a chotzer, in order to be zeicha, the halacha is that the person has to say he wants to be zeicha in it. So the Rebbe there in that Kuntres Yosh Teres Achsidis brings over here, you see that even though the kinyan of dalet amas that Chachamim instituted is based on the concept of chotzer and atayra, but nevertheless it's even more powerful than the chotzer. And the point that the Rebbe explains over there is that the chotz of a person usually is connected to the levels of the mitzias of the person, related to the 4 levels of the neshama, nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya as well. But then there's the yechide, which is even deeper, which is beyond the consciousness, beyond the seichel, beyond what the person would say. That's automatic. That's the very essence, the core of the person. That the basis of the concept of chotzer is the dal damas of the person, which is based on the yechide of the person. And therefore, over there, when there's a chayfetz in your reshus, and the Eibishter wants you to be mevarer and use this chayfetz, there's a koyach of yechide where automatically you're going to be zeicha in it, without any amira, without expressing, without consciously saying anything. That was mazbet barichas over there, but that's nakud over here, that this dal damas is a very powerful lineage that comes from the yechide shebenefesh. Rav Papa gives a different answer to the question. Ki tekinu le'rabbanan arba amis ba'alma. When at Chachamim Institute that you could be zeicha and dal damas, that's if you're anywhere else outside. If you're in the street, if you're in usually a kinyan, Rashi says is done in a simta, on a side street or on the side of the Rishus Harabim. Over there, Chachamim instituted that in your dal damas you'll be kaina. But over here, though, in this mission of Peya, what are we talking about? Beside the balabayas, you're in the field of the balabayas. So over here, like Tekina Le'Rabbanah, Chachamim didn't institute in such a case that you would be kaina over here with kinyan of dal damas. Even though the Torah says that the poor person is zeicha here in this payah, ki zachale rachmana, the Torah gives you a right to walk into this person's private property and take over here your payah. The Torah gave you that right to walk there and to take your payah. However, to say that the kinyan of Dal Ramis becomes like your chotzer, that the Torah did not give you the ability. So here you see in the Gemara that Dal Ramis is chotzer. That the Torah didn't give you the koyach. Or the Rabbana rather, did not give you this koyach. Okay, what? Yeah, hefke. Well, pay is really also hefke, but it has to be in an outside place, right? Now, Rav says, Meisav Rav Yaakov Beridin Nezikin. Rav Yaakov asked a question on this halacha of the kinyan of Dal Damas from our Mishnah, Nezikin. The Mishnah said a person saw a lost item on the floor of an and he falls upon it, and someone else came and did a proper kinyan and was machzik in it. But the one that did the proper kinyan is zeicha, and the one that fell in it is not zeicha. Question is, if when it's in your dollar amas you kaine, so nikna le'arbamas the day, the fact that it was within your dollar amas, you should be kaine. So again, the Gemara goes through the same discussion. First, the Gemara tries to answer, the person did not say that he wants to be kaine, so therefore he won't be kaine. But the Gemara asks, if the Chacham instituted, so then automatically you should be kaine. You don't have to say akni. So the Gemara answers again, this person fell, he threw himself on this lost item. He's revealing his intent. He's not interested in using the Takanas Achamim. You can't be kaina kinyan that you refuse to use that kinyan. If you show that your intent is to use the kinyan of Nefila, so then you're not going to be kaina. Rav Sheshes gives a different answer. Rav Sheshes Amar, little different than what it said before in the Gemara. Rav Papa, Rav Sheshes argues, Ki to kinyan Rabbanon, when did Chachamim institute the kinyan of Dal Damas, specifically besimta, only in a side street. The Ledaki Rabim, in a side street where you don't have the public and many people walking there. Over there, there's a concept of Dal Damas, because it could be a place where you're standing there and there's no other people within your Dal Damas. But Rishus Harabim, however, if you're mamish in the middle of the street in the public where there's so many people standing there, the Kadach Rabim, like the Kinyan Rabbanan. In such a case, Chachamim would not misakin the din of Dal Ramas. So therefore, in our Mishnah, when it said you threw yourself in the Metzia, it was the middle of a Rishus Harabim. That's why the Dal Ramas doesn't work. In fact, the Gemara, but Vaha, B'chol Mokim Kamar. Ishlakish was it before, right? Ishlakish, when he quoted this halacha of Dal Ramas, he said that Dal Ramas is kind of B'chol Mokim. So now he's saying it's only in a side street. So the Gemara answers, Kol Makayim Lasuyat Sida Rishus Harabim. It's not only on a side street, even if you're in a Rishus Harabim, if you just go a little bit to the side, over there, the traffic is not so busy, over there, the kinyan of Dal Ramas will work. Another halacha, the Gemara says, Another halacha regarding a kinyan, related also to a chotzer. Ketana ein lo chotzer. A ketana, she's a girl, a child. The kinyan of chotzer will not work for her. And this is usually by a katana or not by katana. Usually, for example, you want a man wants to throw a get to his wife, doesn't want to give it into her hands, just throws it into her courtyard. She could be zeicha through chatzar, as we learned already out before that chatzar is zeicha. But not by a katana though. You throw the get into her chatzar, she's not going to be zeicha. And there's no kinyan of Dal Ramas for a katana as well. Just like there's no kinyan of chatzar, there's no kinyan of Dal Ramas either. But Rav Yechon Mishum Rav Yana Yona, Rav Yechon in the name of Rav Yana, he argues and says, no, Yesh La Chatzer, the kinyan of Chatzer works even for a Katana, and the Yesh La Arbamis, and therefore the kinyan of Dalaramis works for her as well. So the Gemara explains, B'maika Miflagi, what's the basis of their machlekes? Mar Sovar, so Ishlakish holds Chatzer, Mishum Yodes Rabbi. Sorry, this is actually Rabbi Yechanan. Rabbi Yechanan holds the kinyan of Chatzer based on what is Chatzer Zeiche. Because Chatzer, we compare it to a hand. So which is learned out from the Pasuk, where it says over there, Himatzis Himatzah Biyadai. So we learn out that a Chatzer is similar to a hand. So therefore we say as follows, just like a katana, she has her hand. If the husband places the get into her hands, she's Zeiche in that get, and she becomes divorced. The only time that a hand is not zeiche is by a shaita, which is mishalcha v'chezeres. You can't. She has no das b'chal to be zeiche. But by a katana, the kinyan works in the hand. Chatanami isla. So too by a katana, the chatzer, which is an extension similar to a hand, will also work for the katana. But Umar Savar, Reish Lakish, however, says you don't need the source of yad for chatzer. Chatzer mishum shlichus is rabbi. The source that a chatzer is kaina is just like the Torah says that you learn out from the pasuk v'shilach or v'shilcha that you can give a get through a shliach. So too a chatzer is similar to a shliach. A chatzer is your private property, and therefore the reason why the chatzer is zeicha is similar to shlichus. It's learned from the din of shlichus. So the shlichus lesla, just like there's no din of shlichus when it comes to a katana. The din of shlichus is only for an adult, for a ish. As Asher brings the pasuk, you learn out shlichus, it says there ish. So tu chatzanami lesla. So chatzer, which is learned, which is a svara that you understand from the din of shlichus, so too there's no din of chatzer regarding a katana. That's the understanding of this machlokes. But the Gemara asks on this: is there anybody that holds this? Is there anybody that says that the source of the fact that you can be kind of something in your property is learned from the concept of shlichus? But Vatanya, we learned clearly in Abraisa, it says biyadai, and this is a pasuk where it speaks about a person stealing something and it's found in his hands. So I would think only if he steals something and it's found in his hands, so then he has to pay for this and he pays the kefil. And if something flies into your courtyard and you go and you lock the door in it and you steal it through your courtyard, how do you know that then you're this same geneve? So the pasuk says a double ocean that even in your courtyard you're kind of. So my question is, if you're going to say you don't need any special pasuk to teach me that a chatzer is like a person's hand, it's just a svara that it's similar to shlichus. Your chatzer belongs to you; it's your domain, and therefore something in your domain is like your shliach. It's like it works on your behalf. So the question over here is, Im kain matzinu shliach ledvar aveda. So the source is not from imatzi simatze. Rather, the source is from the din of shlichus, and we're saying that the chatzer works for you, that you should become a ganav through this. If so, it comes out that the chatzer, which is like your shliach, and you're going to be chayiv for this ganeva, so that means that there's a shliach for a dvar aveda. And what's the problem? The kaimelon and shliach l'dvar aveda. We know the rule is that for a dvar aveda, there's no concept of shlichus. As we learned already before, when it comes to a dvar aveda, we say divrei rav, divrei talmud, divrei mishaymin. That if a shliach does something for you, you're not going to be liable for that because he has to listen to what the Eibishter says. So if that's the rule, the Gemara now thinks and understands that chotza, which is a svar that you learn out from shlichus, there should be no din of shlichus regarding a geneva. So the Gemara gives two answers to this. One answer, the Gemara says, Amar Avine, hey, when is there a rule that the concept of shlichus does not apply for an aveda? If the shliach that's doing it for you, he's a person that's chayiv in this for himself. So therefore, we say to him, you're chayiv. Divrei Rav, Divrei Talmud, you're chayiv for this. You can't make the one that sent them responsible for this. But the chatzer, that's just a diamond, just it's you own it, and therefore there's a svara that it's like shlichus, but it's not a bar chiyuva for himself. So therefore over here, if you're stealing through your chatzer by locking the door on this thing that you're stealing, it is going to be your responsibility. You're the ganav. That's a distinction. But the Gemara asks in this, if so, person that appoints a shliach, he tells a woman or a slave, Suvigamvali, go and steal from me. If they steal, they're not obligated to pay back because they have no money of their own to pay back. Whatever a isha or a eved own belongs to the husband or to the master. Are you going to say over here that the halacha is because they're not chayiv, so therefore you, the sender, should be chayiv? That's what it would seem the halacha should be, and the Gemara doesn't want to accept this. So the Gemara says that's a different story. Amre, you'll say the answer for this is Isha ve'eved b'nei chiyuvin. A woman, a slave that steals something, they're not allowed to steal. They are b'nei chiyuv, they're not allowed to steal. But v'hashtimi leslu l'shlumi, they just don't have money to pay back. The Tanan, as we learned in the Mishnah, it says in Bava Metzia, Nizgarsha Isha nishtachra eved, if this eved gets freed, or the woman gets divorced, chayav l'shalom, they have to pay. So they are b'nei chiyuv. So if they do the geneva, the sender that sent them is not going to be responsible for that. That's one answer for this. Rav Sama gave a different answer to explain why by a chotzer there is a din of shlichus, even though we have the rule of ein shliach l'dvar aveda, and you could steal through your chotzer and you will be liable. He says a different rule. When do I say the rule that there's no shliach for a dvar aveda and you will not be liable? If you appoint someone to do something and he has his own free choice, he's a bardas, he's able to choose to do it and choose not to do it, then he's going to be chayiv, not you. The bal korche, but a chatzar, something, you place something into your chatzar, or something comes into your chatzar and you lock the door, the chatzar has no choice, no will of its own. It's just yours, it's your domain that belongs to you. Mechayiv shalcha, here you're going to be responsible. This is a very similar teretz to what Ravina said. The difference is Ravina said that we have to, the point there is that the chatzar has no chiyuv. Only another person that has a chiyuv, then there's no shleich l'dvar aveda. Rav Sama is saying that the chatzar has no choice, no ability to even choose anything b'chlal. So the Gemara explains what's the difference between these two answers. My benai, what's the difference between them? So the Gemara says there's an afkamina, ikke benai, the difference is kayin, the amalei li Yisrael, or kayin that tells the Yisrael. Say the kaddish isha grusha. Go and be mekadesh for me, a isha that's a grusha. A kain is not allowed to marry a divorced woman, and as soon as he's mekadesh or he's over the iser, now the shliach that he's sending to do this for him is a person that's a Yisrael that doesn't even have that chiyuv b'chlal. He's not, for him it's not a iser b'chlal. It's one example. Inami ish, the amala li isha, a man appoints a shliach, a woman, and he tells this woman, akfili cotton, go and give this child a haircut and cut off his payas. The issur of cutting off the payas is not only for a person that cuts it off for himself. The issur is on the makif and the nikif, someone else that goes and does this. Over here, a person appointed a isha to do this. Now, a isha doesn't have the issur of cutting off the payas. Only a man that has the issur to cut off the beard has the issur to cut off the payas, but not the woman. So now over here, this will be the nafkamina, whether there would be a din of shlichus here. If you send someone to do an aveda, and that person that you sent, he has the ability to choose on his own whether he should do it or not. Hachanami, over here, you send the Yisrael, the Kayin sends the Yisrael, or a Ish sends the Isha to do this Isser, they have the choice to choose on their own if they would do it or not. So therefore, there'll be no Shliach L'dvar Aveda. They could have chosen not to do it. So le mechayiv shelchan, the shmeshaleach that sends is not going to be responsible for this. But lahach lishne, according to the first answer that Ravina said, the omred kol hecha the shliach lav bar chiyuve, mechayiv shelchay, that it's not only a question of whether the shliach that you're sending has the ability to choose to do it or not, but the question is he chayiv on this that he's doing? Only in a case where he's chayiv, the shliach is chayiv. Then I said that the Mishaleach is not chayiv. So hani nami kiven the lav b'nei chiyuvin inu. Over here, when the Kain sends the Yisrael and the Yisrael is not chayiv, or the Ish sends the Isha and the Isha is not chayiv, mechayiv sholchen. The Mishaleach is going to be responsible for this, even though they could have chosen not to do it. But because you're sending someone that has no chiyiv on this Isser, you're the one that has the chiyiv on this Isser. In such a case, there will be a din of shliach l'dvar aveda. Sign in the taif. Okay, we're in the middle of the inning, but we'll finish off next year.